Today we're going to explore a really fascinating theological idea, one that connects the oldest man in the Bible to the timing of the final judgment. It's a pattern that some folks believe has been hiding in plain sight this whole time. So let me just start by throwing this question at you. What if the end of the world isn't some random out-of-the-blue event? What if it's actually designed to mirror the way the Great Flood happened way back in the days of Noah?
And get this, what if the key to unlocking that whole pattern is one specific person, Methuselah, the oldest man who ever lived? It's a pretty wild idea, so let's really dig into it together.
You see, according to this theory, Methuselah isn't just some trivia answer about who lived the longest. No, he's a central figure, an ancient key to a pattern of God's patience at the end of time.
I mean, the man lived for 969 years. That's the longest lifespan recorded in the entire Bible. But in this theory, that number isn't just a random fact. It's actually a symbol, a measure of God's incredible, almost unbelievable patience before judgment finally came.
And this is where it gets really, really interesting. His name itself is seen as a prophetic clue. For a long time, interpreters have understood the name Methuselah to mean something like, when he dies, it shall be sent. So his very name was pointing to a judgment that was going to be unleashed the moment he died.
And you know, this wasn't some fringe idea cooked up recently, not at all. Ancient Jewish tradition and some of the heaviest hitters of the early church, we're talking Augustine and Jerome, they taught that God specifically delayed the flood. He was holding back judgment until Methuselah's super long life was finally over. His life was, in a way, acting as a restraint.
So this brings us right to the heart of the theory, this idea of a repeating pattern of delayed judgment. Theologians have a fancy word for it. They call it a typology. But all that really means is that an event or a person from the past serves as a kind of blueprint for a future one.
And here is the central comparison of the whole theory. You see it laid out here. Before the flood, you have Methuselah's nearly 1,000-year life acting as this massive delay of judgment. Well, this theory proposes that our current church age, which is sometimes symbolically called the 1,000 years in the book of Revelation, it serves the exact same function. In both cases, God is waiting for his family to be complete before the end comes. It was judgment by water back then, and it'll be judgment by fire in the end. It's like a tale of two different ages, but with the exact same pattern of mercy.
This whole idea plugs right into a key theme in the Bible that really underpins the whole theory. The Apostle Peter wrote that God's delay isn't him being slow or inactive, it's patience. The reason for the delay, both back then and right now, is mercy.
Now, this idea of the righteous somehow acting as a divine restraint on judgment, it's not new. In fact, it has a long and really respected history. You can find echoes of it all throughout early Christian writings.
For instance, the early theologian Tertullian is often credited with this idea, that the very presence of God's people here on earth is like a preserving force, literally holding back judgment on the world.
Then you've got the great St. Augustine. He taught a very similar concept, pulling from the book of Revelation. He argued that the end is held back, it's delayed, until the full number of believers is finally complete, until God's family is all gathered in.
And another super influential voice, John Chrysostom, he basically said the same thing. The world itself keeps going because the saints, God's people, are still here.
And hey, this line of thinking didn't just stop in the ancient world. It keeps right on going with really respected modern theologians like R.C. Sproul and G.K. Beale. They've also explored this connection between the mission of the church and the timing of the end. So look, regardless of whether you're 100% convinced by every single detail of this typology, it points to a much bigger, overarching theme. It's a story that, when you get right down to it, isn't about a timeline, but it's about mercy.
When you strip it all away, the pattern it's showing us is actually beautifully simple. First, God is in the process of gathering a family. Second, his incredible mercy creates the time for that to happen by delaying judgment. And third, just like Noah and his family in the ark, those who are part of that family are kept safe right through it all.
And that's really the main takeaway here. The value of this whole Methuselah typology isn't about cracking some secret code to predict the future. Its real power is in what it shows us about the character of God, a character that is defined by mind-blowing patience and deep, profound mercy. So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. What does it mean for us, right here and now, if the entire timeline of the world isn't a scary countdown to some terrible end, but is actually a story of patience being written from the very beginning to the very end?